You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It's Tuesday, July 25th, and we have made it. The team is regrouping this week. In fact, today, for 49ers training camp, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan spoke with the media today for a joint presser, and they gave us plenty of updates on a number of players and a number of things. So we're going to discuss that today, but I'm happy to be back. This past week, I was in El Salvador, just enjoying a little bit of time off before, getting back into the grind of things with the 49ers and all that. So I definitely enjoyed my time, but I'm so ready to just talk about regular football. And I'm glad those of you tuning in stayed with me. You guys didn't unsubscribe or anything like that. Make sure you guys like this video. Make sure you guys subscribe if you have not yet. But first and foremost, let's get to some of these updates, starting with Brock Purdy, probably the most notable update of the day. He is fully cleared to participate in training camp with no restrictions per John Lynch. And this is huge news, not just for Brock, but honestly, for the entire team, everyone, the fans even, the presumed QB1 of this team. While fully cleared, the 49ers will still continue to adhere to his rehab timeline, which as of right now involves him throwing 2 days on, 1 day off. And so he has yet to throw for 3 consecutive days since he suffered his injury, or since he had surgery. And that time of him throwing every day may come in a couple weeks, but for now, 2 days on, 1 day off for Brock Purdy. So with that schedule in mind, he is set to not practice Wednesday, but he will be the QB1 on Thursday. All right. So this is kind of big, not just because Brock Purdy is doing well in his rehab, which is great for this team. Like I said in Bully Ball podcast earlier, I don't think we're really used to quarterbacks, or anyone for that matter, to come back from a injury and it goes smoothly. Like the rehab goes smoothly. Like we're used to our quarterbacks having setbacks and, oh no, like he's not going to be ready the first few weeks of training camp or something like that. I don't know. I feel like that's just what we've been conditioned with. But Brock Purdy, it seems like he's been grinding and he really, really wants to get back on the field, has been working hard on his rehab, and it's paying off because it looks like he's right at schedule and it looks like he's going to be able to start week 1. That's going to be a tough week 1. First game back for Brock Purdy playing against the Steelers defense, but that's a topic for another day. Let's get back to talking about camp and the implications of Brock Purdy, having 2 days on, 1 day off. It could be a good thing for this team because it will give Sam Darnold and Trey Lance the opportunity to split first team reps on those Brock Purdy off days, right? And yes, they will continue to split these reps, according to Kyle Shanahan. He was asked about that today, although he did give he left some wiggle room to change his mind. So something to keep an eye on just in case if we start to see either Sam or Trey, their first team reps trending towards an increase. So as of right now, when Brock Purdy is not practicing, Sam and Lance will split first team reps, but that could change as training camp moves along. So really it's great because the team will get a good look at both Lance and Darnold when Purdy is out. We already know that Purdy is the leader of the clubhouse. He's QB1 on this team, like pretty much unquestioned at this point. So I really think it comes down to, okay, who's going to be the backup? And of course, we know that has some implications past that decision being made. But I think it's good that they're going to be able to split reps when Purdy is out. So they're going to get a good look at both of these guys. And I'm almost more interested to see, like, as training camp goes along, how the reps split when Purdy does practice and when Purdy is the QB1 on those practices. Because with so many quarterbacks on this roster when Purdy's healthy, right? It's going to be a little more complicated to see how those reps kind of shake out. Suddenly you're having either Darnold or Trey Lance taking third team snaps, right? So like it's going to be interesting to see who gets those third team snaps. Might not be looking good for them. I don't know if the 49ers are going to continue to do the 50-50, like maybe one day, Sam Darnold gets the backup reps. Maybe the next day Trey Lance gets those backup reps. Maybe they're going to continue to try to do the 50-50 thing, keep it even. But I think that as training camp progresses, like we'll probably get more of an idea of what way they're leaning, because if there's one guy who isn't performing as well as the others, you don't want that guy taking reps from the other guy, right? So if they feel like Lance, for example, is doing better than Darnold, why waste time giving Darnold more of those reps, right? So I think like they'll probably start off pretty even, but as training camp goes along, I could see some things kind of shifting a little bit, and we might get some good indicators then. And Kyle Shanahan even, admitted today that having that having all those quarterbacks, split reps, and when Brock Purdy is available, that's going to be kind of tricky. But personally, I would like to see a guy who hasn't had a lot of NFL reps see those backup reps, right? Darnold, while he's still getting the hang of the system, sure, you want him to get acclimated with some of these guys and the system in general, but he's been a starter in this league and he has plenty of those reps under his belt already. Lance, on the other hand, could really use them. Like he could use all of the reps he can take, right? So if it came down to it, I think I would lean towards giving Lance those reps just because he needs them so badly. But speaking of Lance, Kyle Shanahan was asked about Lance and him working with quarterback coach Jeff Christensen. You guys know, I mean, we've been talking about the clips that have come out of Trey Lance working with Christensen, and Patrick Mahomes is there. That's been one of the bigger offseason topics. And it's great that he's been working with Christensen. And so Kyle was asked if the team asked Trey Lance to work with him or if Lance sought out Christensen on his own. And it seems that, yeah, Trey Lance contacted and reached out to Christensen on his own. The team did not ask him to work with Christensen. In fact, Kyle pretty much said they don't, tell their quarterbacks or their players who to work with. So when asked how Lance has looked since working with Christensen, Kyle has said that Lance looks healthier and his feet look better. And this is all great news. I mean, I think a lot of us can see in some of those video clips that have been circulating, and one recently that dropped this past weekend. It's on YouTube. From Kai Visuals. So if you guys want to check that out, it's on YouTube. But I think like those clips, you can clearly see that there's an improvement in his mechanics. It's a lot quicker. And so I think that's great for Lance. Now, as we know, that's just part of playing quarterback. Having good mechanics is just part of the equation. And so it's great that Lance is working on that. It's great that, Lance has some of those injuries behind him and he can actually focus on improving as a quarterback. But, what's really going to tell us whether he's turned a corner and whether he's developed into something or someone who can be a starter in this league, I think we're going to have to see it starting in this training camp, right? We're going to have to see it, in those practices, the joint practices with the Raiders. We're going to have to see it in these preseason games, right? So I'm excited for Lance. I'm eager to see what he looks like, rooting for him still. Like I said on Twitter, like there's literally no reason to not root for Trey Lance. Like he is on this team. Even if you like Brock Purdy, you can like Brock Purdy. You can agree that Brock Purdy is QB1 and deserves to be QB1 on this team. And at the same time, still, really want to see more of Trey Lance and still want to see him do well. Like, those things are not mutually exclusive. So you can hope for the success of both of those guys, all of these guys, all the quarterbacks on this team. One thing that I found interesting, or just something that, Rob Stats, friend of the pod, pointed out. Make sure you subscribe to Gold Standard Network if you have not yet. That's where we do the Bully Bob podcast with me and Jay. But one thing that Rob pointed out, he said he's noticed that the 49ers, whenever they're asked about Lance, they kind of make it a point to mention that he's healthy now. And, he kind of wonders if maybe that's because they're still trying to garner some trade interest. And I mean, that could definitely be a possibility. I'm not going to sit here and say, I know, yeah, that's for sure the reason. But I could see that definitely being a reason that they would want to mention. Yeah, he's healthy, guys. Like he's doing great. And in actuality, they don't really know too much of what he looks like yet either, because like I said, yeah, seeing how he looks in those video clips or, in some throwing drills, yeah, that's great, but you don't really know what he's going to actually look like or get an idea of what he might look like in games until, we get to 7-on-7, 11-on-11s in camp, until we get to those preseason games and you start playing, other teams. So I think it's fair for Kyle Shanahan to not have too much to say about how Trey Lance looks, other than, yeah, he looks healthy. Yeah, his footwork looks great. And those are still positive things. So I think just like Kyle, we're all going to have to wait and see how Lance looks once things start to get going. But like I said, because Brock Purdy is going to be 2 days on, 1 day off, on those off days for Purdy, we're going to get good looks at Lance and Darnold and how they might look within this offense. So I'm excited for that. Now, another thing that, John Lynch and Kyle discussed today was Nick Bosa, of course, because he's due for that extension. We're all kind of waiting, what's going to happen, when that's going to happen, because as we know, around training camp is usually when those extensions get done with the 49ers and any, player that has an extension coming up. So we're getting to that time, training camp getting started today. As we know, I mean, Deebo Samuel just a season ago, they got that deal done right before the padded practices. So when the pads come on, that's kind of the soft deadline to ideally get something done with Nick Bosa. But in the meantime, it sounds like Nick Bosa is not going to be attending training camp until he gets his deal. And it sounded like that's a mutual understanding between, Nick Bosa and the team. And I think it makes sense. Like, there's no reason for Nick Bosa to put his health in jeopardy. Yes, he could show up and hold in like Deebo Samuel did last season. But, at the same time, Nick Bosa has a process that he goes through in the offseason, one that clearly works for him because he always looks like a Greek god. And so if that's working for him and he wants to continue to do that while he's waiting for his deal, I have no issue with it. I am not personally concerned about this deal getting done. I think I have hope that it's going to. There's no way in my mind that it's not going to get done. It's going to be a ridiculous contract, but at the same time, like the 49ers as a business and as a team that has gotten to a point where they got to start pinching pennies, they got to try to get the best price too. So at one point, both sides, 49ers and Nick Bosa's agent and Nick Bosa, they're going to agree on a number that's like, okay, that sounds good to me. But they're going to keep chipping away at it. And so I think it's good. Also, we haven't heard too much about how this extension and these negotiations have been going. Not really like Debo Samuel a year ago, where that was very, very public. But it seems like the team, Nick Bosa, his agent, they've agreed to keep negotiations private. I think that's good. They keep chipping away at it. I'm not worried at it. I'm not worried about it one bit. So we'll see Nick Bosa around soon. And hopefully by the time that the team starts practicing with pads on, hopefully we're going to see Nick Bosa out there, backing the Brinks truck up, okay? And things will be all well, but not worried about it. I don't think you guys should worry about it either. Kyle was also asked about, Debo Samuel season last year and how, Debo was self-critical about himself. And Kyle said, Debo probably didn't need to be that hard on himself, but that it was nice to see. And I think we all felt the same way. It was nice to get that type of transparency from a player. And Debo didn't have to tell us or the media that he thought his season last year was terrible. He didn't have to tell us that, but he did, and I think it shows a level of accountability. And I don't know if you guys follow Debo Samuel on social media or see some of the workout videos that get posted, but he looks like he's working his butt off right now. And Kyle Shanahan is getting some of the shirtless pics from Debo Samuel, apparently, because Debo, I guess, wants to show Kyle too that he's serious about the season. And Kyle said he's never had a grown man send him so many pictures of himself with his shirt off, but Debo looks good. So that's a great sign. I mean, I think it also shows that Debo's feelings go beyond just, admitting it to the media, but also he wants to show that accountability and show up to Kyle like, hey, coach, like this is how I'm looking, this is what I'm doing these days, like I am serious. And that's one thing I'm excited for going into camp, because I think Debo's gonna come in maybe one of the best shapes that we've seen him in, and that could only mean that he might be in 2021 form as far as his, body and his conditioning goes. And that was a great place to be, because 2021 Debo was one of a kind. And like I have said, I don't think that season is repeatable, but even if he's just in that mindset, even if he's just in that form, as far as his conditioning goes, that can only mean good things for this team. And if we get a 2021 form Debo plus the CMC we saw at the end of last year, man, I mean, this offense is going to be really hard to stop. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing, how Debo does. I like that he's finding self-motivation, and it's great to have, that extra outside motivation, to keep things interesting for yourself. And Brandon Ayuk also seems to be a guy that, is excited for training camp, and he's putting the defense on notice. I mean, he posted a story, I think it was last night or something, saying if you're in a white jersey, fuck you pretty much. And with a middle finger emoji, that's the energy he's bringing into camp. Camp hasn't even started yet, and he's already mad. So hopefully there aren't any fights that stop practice or anything, but I'm loving that energy from Brandon Ayuk. Because I think it elevates everyone's game. And Fred Warner spoke about it today too, because he spoke with the media and was actually asked about Ayuk's comments. It didn't seem like he knew about it, but he just said good luck to Ayuk. And yeah, so I think it's great for the entire team to just have that energy, to be competitive among each other. And they're going to need that to start the season off on a high note, because we know one of the biggest issues with this team to start the season has been that they start off slow. It's like there's no sense of urgency to start the season. And so hopefully, if they can start now in training camp with that energy, hopefully that spills into the start of the season. They need that. They need to get it going now. And so bringing that energy into training camp is a great way to start it and being competitive, among one another. But let me see one of these comments. Alberto, I didn't see this one earlier. The body language of both John and Kyle told me a lot, which was Kyle wants Trey and John wants Purdy for QB1. Yeah, that could be. The thing is, like, no one knows what Kyle wants. No one knows what Kyle thinks. And that's the interesting thing. You don't really know until the season starts and decisions need to be made. And we'll see. But honestly, I think Kyle does want Purdy to be QB1. Like, there's no reason for him not to, because, like, Brock has earned that, and if there's a scenario in which Trey Lance, sets the world on fire and he looks like he should be the starter, they would accept that too. I think they'd be very happy if something like that happened, right? But I think as of right now, QB1 has to be Brock Purdy. He earned that. What's going on, Uncle Salty? JC, what's going on? He said, "Yo, Steph, Streets told me we need a Nick Bosa holding out video." All right, I might have to work on that. We'll see what that looks like. I have to start thinking of ideas there. But hopefully, Bosa doesn't hold out for too long, because he's going to be accruing $50,000 fines for each day that he misses. So not like that will be a whole lot of money once he gets this extension, but just something to consider. Now, as far as like injury updates go with this team, Darrell Luter, rookie DB who was placed on the PUP list. The reason that he made it to the PUP list is he hyperextended his knee and it caused a deep bone bruise. And so he's going to start on the PUP list for training camp. But the good news is Shanahan said that he expects all the 49er players who were, injured during OTAs and were doing some side work. Remember, usually that's, cautionary to begin with. But all those guys, Greenlaw, Mitchell, Juwan Jennings, to name a few, they are healthy and they're going to be good to go for Wednesday's first practice. So, guys, prayer circle. All right, prayer circle with me right now. Make sure, let's pray that none of these guys on this team suffer any injuries during training camp. All right, because we don't need any of those injuries spilling into the beginning of the year, right? So prayer circle. But it's good to know that as of right now, these guys are healthy. The team is healthy. Brock Purdy is on his way to, being healthy. I mean, he's fully cleared, so I guess he's already there. But there is so much to be excited about, to be positive about heading into camp. I don't want to hear any negativity, because there's so many good things. I know, we fight about the quarterback position. That's always going to be there. And I'm sure we're going to hear plenty of discourse among fans throughout, the entirety of training camp and probably the preseason. But let's focus on the positivity, the good things, the things we're excited about. Steve Wilks, the new defensive coordinator, right? Like, I'm so excited to see what that looks like, what new wrinkles he's going to add. Drake Jackson, much bigger this offseason. Is he going to take that next step? I'm really rooting for him. Javon Hargrave in a 49er uniform. What is that going to look like with the rest of the guys on that defensive line? I can only imagine good things about that. Jair Brown, I mean, is he going to start spilling into Sean Gibson's time? Potentially. I mean, I want to see what he looks like. Marcelino McCrary-Ball had a great training camp last season. Could he bring that energy into this season as well? I want to see how the rookie tight ends are going to look. I want to see, how IU does against the defense, some of those battles. I want things to get a little chippy, not too chippy, but just chippy enough to keep that energy going, right? I want to see what Debo looks like, and, can he bring that 2021 energy back, right? So I'm just so excited. I know you guys are excited too. And look, we're all the way back. All right. We're all the way back. Tomorrow, I'll be live again to discuss the team's first practice, open to fans and to the media. We have real live football to discuss, people. And for those of you wondering, look, it was hard to get tickets for training camp. One, because I was out of the country when they dropped the tickets, so I couldn't like sit on my phone and try to get them. But even for the people who were sitting trying to get them, like it sounded like it was very tough. People who were in the queue couldn't get tickets. So as of right now, I only have planned to go to next week's practice. That is August, I think, August 3rd, Thursday next week. So, but I'm going to be out in the Bay. I fly out on Saturday and I'm going to be there 1 week. So if I'm able to score tickets by, the grace of God or by someone who wants to lend me one of their tickets, I mean, I'm going to go. But as of right now, I just have one ticket, unfortunately. But we're going to try to make it happen. And regardless, I'm still going to be doing these lives every practice, to make sure I keep y'all up to date on what the streets are saying about the 49ers. But let me look at these comments really quick. JC says, "Dear good Father, give the squad full health during this season. Amen." Amen, man. I mean, I think it's so silly to pray about sports, but if there's anything that I'm going to pray about, it's going to be the 49ers staying healthy all year. What's going on, Sin? Glad you can make it. Make sure you guys like this video if you have not yet, and subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. JC said, "There shouldn't be any negative energy about Purdy being healthy." I 100% agree. There should not be. It's great news. Like that's the best news we could have gotten. The fact that Brock Purdy is healthy going into camp, he's going to be QB1. Like that's a great feeling. And based on what he did last year, we should all be very happy and very excited for that to be the case. Uncle Salty said, "An interesting start to camp. Good news about Brock. Understandable news about Bosa. Niners starting off on the right foot." Yes, sir. Definitely feels like I don't know. I'm just getting positive vibes. I don't know if it's just because I'm excited, but there's a lot to be positive about. So I'm gonna choose to do that. Alberto said, "What about Fred, the Mexican Superman, letting BA know good luck?" Yeah, I like that energy. Like, BA is already talking some smack before they even get on the field, and Fred's already, backing his defense up, saying good luck. I mean, they know what it is. You can't ask for anything better than that. These guys, competitors at the highest level, competing against each other. Like what is better than that? So I'm excited. Again, get chippy, but not too chippy. Don't make Kyle, stop practice and, cancel practice, cut it short or something. Uncle Salty said, "Not worried much yet about anything on day one, like how Debo has been working it all off season. Kind of comical with all the shirtless pics, but that's showing how serious he is." Exactly. I think it just shows that accountability. Like, not only was he being real with us to tell us, like, he felt his season was terrible, but, he's showing up to Kyle Shanahan and saying, like, "Hey, this is what I look like." And I think it just, again, it shows that accountability. And he's not shying away from it. So I love that. Love that energy. JC said, "Thanks, guys, and good to see you. I've heard about bad luck so long. Hopefully this is the start of good luck." We got to manifest it. We got to manifest good luck. So we got to put that energy out into the world. So, guys, I appreciate you tuning in today. Sometimes, I'm going to be honest with you, sometimes I feel like this potting stuff is like, feels like a job, because it's like I got to go live and I already have my 9 to 5 job, right? But I do this on top of that. And sometimes I forget why I do it. I do it because I love the 49ers and I love talking about the 49ers, and you guys like being here in the comments and being able to talk 49ers with you guys makes it all worth it. So I appreciate you guys being on. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. Make sure you guys like this video if you have not yet. talk to you guys tomorrow after training camp practice. But for now, have a good rest of your night, people. Peace.